Backyard Professor Chess videos. I want to look at some more Sicilian with you, and I've had some people say that they like it when I try to tell them what each of the opening is trying to do, and of course that just has to be very generic and basic, but I can do that. It's been a heck of a week in chess. I've lost a lot of games, I've won a lot of games, I'm making progress in my understanding. Every game of chess you play, remember, one step closer to chess mastery. Here's the Sicilian defense. This is out of Horowitz's book, Chess Openings, Theory and Practice. A huge, gigantic tome. It's somewhat dated. What's missing in this one is a few of the modern variations in the Sicilian, but like he says, it's been a subject of this Sicilian defense I'm about to show you has been the subject of intense interest since 1590, and we're still finding new things about it tens of millions of games later. So this is a fascinating thing about chess. The initial moves determine the sides and character of the coming struggle, and the idea for white is he really, is that straight or crooked? Probably crookedly straight. White really wants to get that pawn to queen 4. That's the idea. This is the whole point. And black wants to break that pawn move. The Sicilian, it opens with e5. And this is why black immediately opens with the c5, is he's going to directly challenge this d4 square. And then usually, typically, and it depends on which variations you study. I've been looking at some of Gary Kasparov's games and Botvinnik's and Bronstein's. Now black's going to go like this, and then he immediately hits that queen 4, and the idea is he's going to change that pawn. He wants to fight for that queen 4, and the knight will take that queen 4. And it's a really hard struggle. And then and there are numerous variations. I mean, you can study this your whole life and never find all the variations. One variation calls for the knight to f6. Another variation calls for the knight to c6, etc., etc. The idea is it's a principal fight for the center, and it's going to be d4 is important in the the Sicilian dragon. The c4 square becomes really important for black in the Sicilian dragon. There's various strategically what we're doing here, and what this does. See, for instance, let's just use this variation real quick, just as an illustration. By playing the opening this way, what white has done is he's given him a half-open file. He's given himself a half-open file, a center file. What it's done for black, because black chooses to open with the c-pawn, is it's given black a very excellent c-file to put a rook on. And especially in the Sicilian dragon, you will see the rooks go to c-file all the time. And there's a very important reason in the Sicilian dragon while the white wants to castle queenside. And so, I mean, there's just myriads of different types of things. Here's the basic strategy, though, as a general rule, because of the way this opening works. White's superiority in terrain, and really white does end up getting more space, more or less. But the idea is that it's balanced by black's center pawn majority. As we go along, black will have the center pawn majority. White is going to play for a kingside attack. Black is going for the queenside counterplay. The interesting thing in the Sicilian is because of the way the pawns work for the opening, the basic pawn structure will always favor black in an endgame. And of course, this depends on the strength of the players, etc., right? But as you go through the game, as a general rule, black has the better endgame structure. And so this may be one of the reasons why the Sicilian is so dadgum blamed popular. And it really is. It's incredibly outrageously popular at all levels. This is a lifetime opening that you can enjoy for the rest of your chess career, whether you're 6 years old and wasting your time watching my videos, or whether you're 66 years old wasting your time watching my videos. This particular opening is a sensational lifetime learning process. And I'm on my way. I've learned a small smidgen of barely one variation. I only have 27 to go. And by then I'll be 163, and then I'll be a grandmaster. That's how it works. What I want to do tonight, Burgess and Jacobson played in 1992. It was a team event. They played what is called the Morra gambit. And Burgess's team was really happy with his play. He plays white. Burgess is white. And he does the typical E5. Holy shish kebab. Talk about bending the rules of chess, huh? That'll keep you on your toes, Tex. And the typical C5. If and when you ever play the king pawn opening, the E5, really, if you ever see the C5, whether it's the Taimanov variation or the Rossolimo, I'm not even quite sure how to pronounce that yet, the Scheveningen, the Najdorf, the Sicilian dragon, whatever variation you're in, this C5 is characteristic of the Sicilian. You know you're entering Sicilian territory. He pops out D4 immediately. And of course there's various different move orders that you can do in the Sicilian. But of course, and the C will take the D pawn. Now, don't be afraid of that in the opening. The C pawn always takes the D pawn. And technically, well, at least in a couple of variations I've been studying, maybe there's other variations where it doesn't do this, so I don't want to commit myself to saying something stupid like I always do anyway. But in some variations, I believe the D pawn always pushes 2. There may be some where it doesn't. I'll figure it out as I go along. For now, this is how it's going. And C took and then the C3, he presses the pawn. And you go, really? You're going to give him another pawn? That's right. That's the Morra gambit. The idea behind the Morra gambit, and now black is a pawn up, right? But what the Morra gambit does for white is it opens up the field, and it gives him speedier development with his pieces. Black is game with that. He says, you know, I'm willing to play this gambit with you because I don't think you're going to get your pieces out fast enough, and I'm going to be able to stop them with my pawns and have a good development. So this is kind of a cool idea, cool theme here. And then E6, he will come up, and the knight to the F3. The knights really usually, with the Sicilian, the knights come out first before the bishops. That's been my experience based on what very little I know about this. And then bishop C4. This classic bishop move is in the Najdorf. It's one that Bobby Fischer made exquisitely famous. A lot of people play it. It is really strong. With the rouser attack by pushing the pawn to F3. He's not going to do the rouser attack in this one. I'll show you that one in another video. But with the rouser attack with F3, and then the knight exchanging and then coming back down to B3, or I mean over here, and then the bishop dropping down to B3. That rouser attack's very famous because of Bobby Fischer, and he was the master of it. Anyway, holy cow, that was a whole bunch of verbiage for nothing, wasn't it? That probably confused you more than enlightened you. And really, truly, so far as all of the games I've seen so far, all of the Sicilians castle pretty doggone quick. Really, truly. And now bishop to F4. This kind of reminds us in a way of the London system in some regards. And then knight G to E7. I've been practicing the London system with white a little bit, kind of experimenting with it and seeing what happens. Now, at this point, we have the file, and of course it is completely full of pieces. And we have the mostly open file for white, and the queen is on it. We got good central power, we have good central power, we have good development. If black's not careful, this can become a backward pawn here. Same with his D pawn. He's going to want to make sure that he can advance it, and realistically in the Sicilian most of the times, because white's going to do a kingside attack and because black's going to do a queenside, the pawns on the A and B and C, the C is usually exchanged, but the A and B pawns really don't stay weak. Very dadgum long at all. White presses the E5. And that kind of begins to give him central space. Now you can see the pawn is way up here all by himself, but he is gaining extra space in the center, while black's center is going to have the majority of pawns. Right now he's kind of feeling squoze, somewhat, right? That's one of the major imbalances that Jeremy Silman talks about in a lot of his books. And knight comes over here to E4. Look at that outpost right there. Now this is a magnificent outpost on D6 because the pawn is already pressed forward and the C pawn is already gone. The E pawn is forward. Man, if that knight can land right there, that is a screaming outpost. And so early in the game. This is really interesting, isn't it? Really kind of fun. And now, black really, because he's pressuring, and he is pressuring him with the bishop. I mean, the knight's hitting the bishop, right? Yeah. Yeah, well, black dropped his bishop all the way back down to A7, and that's just giving him way too much. The comment by Burgess says, holy cow, that's not even, no, that's not even appropriate. If he would have gone to knight G6, that would have been much better. And you can see the difference in the shape. You know, hit his bishop back, and let's keep a kingside guardian on everything. But see, he just has the one piece past the third rank, past his third rank, and then he drops that blasted bishop all the way back down to his second rank, way back here in the corner. Yes, it's got a great diagonal, that's true, but pushing it that far back, just Burgess says, no, that's not the right strategy, and this gives Burgess a chance to bring it on, Bubba. I mean, if you didn't move the knight over here to G6 anyway to help your king side, because you know in a Sicilian, as a general rule, really truly, the aim of the white pieces is king side, and if you're playing black, you will want to do the queen side counter attack more or less. And so just knowing that basic philosophy, rather than dropping that thing way back down there into the middle of no good at all, put the pin to the knight against the queen, yeah. White is more aggressively here. His development's much better. His position's looking pretty good right now because of that particular move. That's not bad. And now queen comes up to C7, and she does come toward the queen side. This is right. And you can see that the file, I mean, eventually, if I don't see either the F or the A rook come onto this C, you're not playing the Sicilian right as black, is what I've been told. You got to get that C file because white is realistically going to fight you for the D and the E, but the C can be all yours. It's a fascinating thing to see how it all works. White now comes to knight F6. Boom. See the kingside attack. Of course. Very nice. Very nice. And it does cause him to disrupt the pawn structure in front of the king somewhat. And now, of course, the F7 is weak. And the black squares are beginning to get weakened because of that exchange. So that knight sacrifice favors white because of the position that the weaknesses are appearing around the king. And so that's worth a piece to beat up the position around the king. If the safety of the king is much less strong, it's worth a knight or a bishop, it's worth a rook, it can even be worth a queen in some setups depending on how you set up. That's just the way chess works. Really kind of interesting. Now the bishop takes f6, and once again you can see the complete domination by white of the dark squares around that king, and now black's in trouble already. You look at that now, I wouldn't want to be black. No man, the black pieces are really not doing too hot. Right? Is there anything he can do? Well, he can give himself an outpost here, which of course guards these squares here. So the knight outpost is supposed to help strengthen the weak dark squares around the king, but white can just pile it on from here on out. And white does pile it on from here on out. Knight d4. See, black is able to bring a knight to help support the pieces around the king, and white has so much dominating influence here that he can bring the knight that will take away the guardians of the dark squares, and really, truly, black's power is over there. Black is not having a good game. And it's interesting how you can see that already, right now, so immediately. Put on a6, if he can keep his knight there. Now, he does have another knight here, true. He can dodge down here to here if the bishop won't take him. How are you going to chase that bishop away, though, with that bishop-pawn formation? That's tough. That is tough. White is playing a really, really nice game. And, of course, he's going to take the knight. Absolutely. Burgess takes the knight without any hesitation whatsoever. And interestingly enough, the knight takes the e5 pawn, which he is attempting, black is attempting now to undermine the bishop. Now the bishop is free floating without that pawn structure. But he's down material, so white is still having a really good game. And because of the knight and the pawn exchange, taking the knight and breaking up the kingside pawn structure, white really has an excellent queen g4. And you go, wait a minute, dude. Queen g4, isn't the knight there guarding that square? Yes, it is. The knight is there guarding the square. Are you telling me that Burgess is going to throw his queen away? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you Burgess is throwing his queen away. And he does. Now, you know, me, there is no way I'd have the guts to do that. Not unless I really saw crystal clearly what's going on. Well, Burgess was so fabulous that he could see that. But look at the principle. You know, Burgess is good enough to do it with a queen. But if you could do this with a rook or a bishop or a knight or whatever, look at the principle here. Beautiful queen sacrifice. I'm not trying to minimize that. He's bringing one of the strongest defenders of the king, this knight, he's bringing him further and further out away from his king, isn't he? And he can't return speedily because now his own pawns are in his way, aren't they? And the rest of his army, literally, except for that rook, is way over here. And really, truly, they haven't even been involved in the game yet. The bishop and the rook haven't even moved, right? That's fun to see. And true, Burgess's rook hasn't moved yet either. That's a good point. Well, the nature of the strength of the bishop at a distance and the bishop at a distance and the knight being up here, the nature of the strength of this is really beautiful to see. The knight comes up and goes check. And the king comes up here to h7. And with his second bishop, he comes here to d3, and he goes checkmate. So that's kind of a, what white does in the Morra gambit is he'll lose a couple of pawns in the beginning, yes, but what that does is it literally opens up the field entirely. And you can virtually see, you know, again, one of the Jeremy Silman imbalances that he says in every book he's ever written is the imbalance of the bishops versus the knights. Okay, now let's take a look at this final position based on what Jeremy Silman teaches, and I am a huge Jeremy Silman fan, absolutely. The bishops are really sincerely, vastly superior for white than they are for black. Right? I mean, you can see the magnificent influence as opposed to both the black's bishops are tucked back there in a corner doing next to nothing vital. The knight of white is utterly supreme compared to this wandering dude that boink, 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 and he's out here in the middle of nowhere doing the absolute middle of nothing. So really, truly, this idea of the minor battle with the knights and the bishops, this is one heck of a game to see the imbalances working, because the Morra gambit for white sacrifices 2 pawns, but it opens up the field and it gets him to get his pieces out much faster. He only didn't get 1 out. Black couldn't get 2 out. The one he did get out's tucked way back here. Granted, it is a long diagonal, but there was nothing ever done. His queen's sitting over here. Granted, it's on a nice file, but she never had much influence over here. They never could coordinate together to come after the king. They were too busy either running or defending, because in an open field, bishops rule. And Burgess, very properly, stuck his bishops out here, and man, they went to town. That's a great illustration of a lot of the principles Jeremy Silman teaches. This is a nice little game here to show the Morra gambit with the Sicilian that gives you some of the fun, if you're white, and if your name is Burgess and you can play that way. I can't yet, but hey, every game played, every game studied, every game lost, and every game won is one step closer on the road to chess mastery, right? So, anyway, there's your chess exercise, you guys. I am whittling it down on chess.com. 24, 26, 27 games of correspondence chess all at once just absolutely does none of us any good. Really, truly. I mean, I love playing, you guys. What I'm going to do is whittle it down to about 3. And then I've got several of your challenges. I mean, over on that side, you know, where it says challenges, I have a list of about 20 challenges. I'll get to you as I can. In the meantime, play other people too. But just because you play me and beat me doesn't mean all of a sudden you're King Kong and Godzilla wrapped up in one and you're a mighty chess player. Believe me, I'm just punk stuff. But I'm working on it. Here in about 5 years, if you can beat me, then you'll have something to crow about. For right now, trust me, you're not into the bragging rights era yet. I am with some of you, though. I beat a couple of you guys that are 1,400, and then you've properly turned around and trounced me for 3 straight games. Thanks. It's a great way to keep me humble, isn't it? Anyway, all right, there's your chess exercise, man. Have fun. Be good, do well. I'll see you out on chess.com, and I will see you in the next chess video, too. Oh, yeah, you will show up. And cool thing is, so will I.